you.
I'm glad you're back here in Annapolis, Delegate Hartman.
I am too. It's I'd rather be seen than viewed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was dark. I like
Mr.
it.
Chair, I believe we're live now.
Oh, gee, I didn't say go live. Good afternoon, everybody. I was just saying that I was glad to see Delegate Hartman. But we are here for local revenues to talk about, discuss, and possibly vote out one of two bills, House Bill 445 and House Bill 508. I believe that there is an amendment to try to
Friday mornings.
compromise one of these bills. Stan, if you want to read House Bill 445 and then 508. You're on mute, my friend.
Sorry about that. So House Bill 445, this is Delegate Smith's bill. So basically the way her bill came in, it would have eliminated the language that says basically that if the rate stays the same, but it's above the constant yield rate, that it would be described as a tax increase. I mean, that's the basic idea of her bill. Delegate McKay's bill, House Bill 508, the basic idea of his bill was just to, instead of using the word increase, it would use the word change to describe a tax rate that was above the constant yield rate. So those are the basic ideas of the two bills. The amendments are to House Bill 445, and just for the discussion and consideration of the subcommittee. So basically the amendments do a couple of things. They make some clarifying and technical corrections, but more substantively, Delegate Smith's bill didn't explain what happens when a local government sets a tax rate that is actually below the current rate, but still above the constant yield rate. So this just provides that in that case, there would be a notice that would explain that that was what was going on, that the rate was actually going down, but it was still above the constant yield rate. So that's one substantive aspect of the amendments. The other was an interim study with this committee and Budget and Tax would just look at ways to further clarify and simplify and potentially make other changes to these notice requirements, just if the subcommittee feels that this is a good first step, but maybe there's more that could be done to make it better. There could be an interim study on this. And then the last amendment would make House Bill 445 an emergency bill to allow for it to take effect in time for the local government's budget cycles coming up this spring, so that they don't have to send out these notices that say, or rather, they don't have to put in the newspaper these notices about a tax increase for their upcoming budgets. Because right now the bill takes effect June 1st, which I believe may be too late for some local governments, although MML may be able to comment further on that. But those are the amendments, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Justin, before I go to the committee for any questions, any input from you on what we're proposing as far as amendments for 445?
Thank you, Delegate. I'm appreciative of all of the amendments in this bill. Stan is right. Our fiscal years are generally starting on the 1st. So if there were a tax rate proposal that would go out before then, we usually send a budget prep memo to all of our members to help them walk through this process. And that's going to probably be going out here in a couple of weeks. So if we wanted to see it for this session, it makes sense. I know in my conversations in the Senate, they also do seem to be interested in studying this issue with you. It wasn't clear to me from them if they thought we had time to do it this session or if it's for the interim, but I certainly defer to the wisdom of this body as to what's possible. I'm just glad to see we're taking a real substantial look at it.
Yeah, I know that this has been an important issue to Delegate Ivey. As a matter of fact, he reached out to me today and said, where the hell are we at with these constant yield bills?
That's right.
We're moving on anything yet until today. Delegate Ivy, any comments to the proposed amendment?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, first and foremost, these are really important pieces of legislation in front of us. Specifically, having served on a local municipality as a town council member in Cheverly, I know that members of the community are so confused by this. You send out a notice and they don't know exactly what it means. Now, the 1 year that I was on the council, we did actually lower not only the rate, but the constant yield. We got a tax cut through in the town of Cheverly, first time in 10 years. So it's something I'm really proud of. And so the amendment specifically to clarify that even if you reduce the rate, but you're still reaching the constant yield or greater, I think is really important as well. And I want to commend Delegate Smith for her leadership on this piece of legislation specifically. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Delegate Hartman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just for the record, Delegate Ivy, I'd love to work with you on some other tax cuts that we can give Marylanders. So it's good to hear that you have that mindset. So good. Thank you. On a serious note, I'm confused by what we're trying to accomplish here. I understand that we're trying to clarify the confusing concept of constant yield. But if you're going above constant yield, I think we have to be very clear in our notice that we're raising taxes. And just by saying that the tax rate exceeds constant yield or whatever, I don't think that means much to people. Are we trying to hide the fact that we're raising taxes? What's the purpose of the bill? Because to me, that's what it seems like we're trying to do, as opposed to clarify. We're trying to smoke something.
I wouldn't say we're trying to hide anything. And I think the bill is very clear, and I'm not sure if you heard or understand the amendments, but the amendments makes it more clarifying. So I think that's where we are.
Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ward, would you mind going over this again for me specifically? It is a confusing bit here.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So yeah, basically the way that the notices would work under the bill with the amendments.
So Stan, I don't mean to cut you off. If you can read the bill, how the bill is written right now before the amendments that we're proposing. So everybody is clear. And if anybody has any questions, please ask, but go ahead, Stan, I'm sorry. Sure.
Yeah, so House Bill 445, as it was introduced, what it would do is if the tax rate actually goes up relative to the current rate, then that would be described as a tax increase. If the rate does not go up, if it stays the same, it would not be described as a tax increase any longer, which the current law does require. So that's basically what the bill does as it came in. The notice, if the rate stays the same, the notice would indicate that the rate exceeds the constant yield rate, if in fact it does. But it wouldn't be describing it as a tax increase. It would only be described as a tax increase if the rate goes up relative to what it had been before.
Before you go over the amendment, Delegate Hartman.
Right.
So thank you, Stan, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for recognizing me. And so this is exactly what I'm getting at. So if the rate doesn't change, you could have the assessments go up, the rate stay the same, and it's a tax increase all day long, because the bill will go up and the amount of revenue collected by whomever will be greater. So this is misleading in what we're trying to do. If Julian or Delegate Ivey, if you really want to make it clear to the people, we're not doing that with this the way it's written. Would you agree, Stan?
I wouldn't characterize one way or the other.
If you're saying the rate doesn't change and we don't call that an increase, if the rate doesn't change and the assessments go up, like right now in these times, assessments are boom, 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 and the rate doesn't change, it's a tax increase all day long, every day. And we're not telling people that, we're hiding that.
But I would disagree because the rate is not going up, it's staying the same. That's not a tax increase.
Will your bill go up by keeping the rate the same?
Yeah, but did the tax increase go up? The answer would be no.
So if a bottle of Coke stays $1 and it goes from 15 ounces to 12 ounces, did the cost of Coke go up?
If all right, I'm gonna use your analogy. If the bottle of Coke costs $1, but it costs $2 or $1.20 to manufacture, now it went up by 20 cents. Did the tax go up?
Hold on, we're not talking about, we're talking about apples to apples here. Okay, here's the thing: the rate stayed the same. The Coke stayed $1. Okay, but the size of the Coke got smaller. Did the cost of Coke go up? In your mind, as you're going along with this bill, no, it didn't. It did because you're getting less. And here, your tax bill is going up. If we're keeping the rate the same and the assessment's going up, I think we owe it to the people to know that there is a tax increase as a result of this bill. And what we're doing is masking that and hiding that. I served on local government and I got involved, because I didn't like what was happening. Things just like we're talking about here, whereas you're hiding what's going up. The spending level is increasing. Your tax bill is going up. And I think it's fair to tell the people that, hey, the rate stayed the same, but the old constant yield we're trying to get away from. The rate stayed the same, but the number of assessments went up across the board and taxes are going up.
All right, Stan, now, Stan, if you can now read the amendments to it, I think it kind of counters or explains what you're talking about, Delegate Harmon.
Right. Well, so the amendments say that if the amendments just clarify that if the rate goes down, but it's still in excess of the constant yield rate, that there's a notification that would be required that explains that the rate went down, but that it's still in excess of constant yield. So it just sort of fills in a gap in the current language in the bill. And then there's the language about a study, and then there's the emergency language. I guess I would say one thing with regard to what Delegate Hartman was saying, which is that inflation in prices. Like the sales tax, obviously the price of goods have been going up recently. So the amount of revenue that's raised by the sales tax has correspondingly gone up. But the rate has stayed the same. And there's I don't know that you would characterize the sales tax as having been increased because of general inflation in prices. I mean, it's the same idea, real estate prices go up, assessments go up. Is that an increase if the rate stays the same? I mean, that's a philosophical debate, but, I would say for other taxes, when prices go up and therefore the amount of revenue goes up, we don't necessarily consider but the rate has stayed the same. We don't necessarily consider that to be a tax increase. So,
and there is a study that will be attached to this, correct, Stan?
If you adopt the amendment, yes.
Right, to make sure that we're moving in the right direction. Before I go to you, Delegate Hartman, Delegate Ott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Stan for the wonderful explanations. I wanted to ask if Delegate Hartman and I could work on this with the chairman and Mr. Ward, before our next subcommittee meeting, because, I think there's a little bit of progress that we can make on this. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful piece of legislation. But I did want to, offer myself forward to work on this legislation alongside.
Are there any other questions, comments, and/or concerns? Delegate Hartman.
Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to work on it further as well, because I really think we need to be transparent in this. And, the study, maybe the study would give us clearer direction, but let's give it some time together and see if we can put some more time into it and make it palatable and accurate. And I'd be happy to spend time with it. Thanks.
All right, let's you two get together and let's all after you all get together and put your heads together, we'll meet with myself and Stan on Monday. Fair
Thank you.
enough.
Thank you.
All right. If that's no other questions, that will conclude our meeting for today. Thank you all for your time. Charnel, keep smiling. And Delegate Patterson, great job on the presentation to our chairwoman today. That was nice.
Here. Okay, I had a hard time getting on, so I don't know if I missed a vote regarding House Bill 508.
No, 508 and 445 were pretty much in the same posture.
Okay,
We were looking at 445 as the vehicle, and there are some amendments, but Delegate Hartman and Delegate Ivy has some more questions. So
okay.
Until next week.
Thank you very much. And thank you for your leadership.
No, I just thank Stan the man. Thank you, guys. We'll see
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Take care. Julian will be in touch.